Thursday afternoon to you, 4 o'clock, time for Sports for CLE. Thanks for joining us. Hope you're having a good afternoon. Fedor Sanders continues to be plenty of the talk concerning the Browns rookie class. Chris Sims, former NFL quarterback, on Fedor Sanders falling all the way to the 5th round.
That was hard. I feel bad for him. I do. I really do. Tough situation. Also, though, he has to take some accountability in the process of that. He made some wrong decisions in the approach, whether it's not getting an agent and, of course, not going all in on the meetings and being detailed and ready to go. And like this guy knows, quarterbacks and good ones are psycho-detailed, type A personality, OCD. So that is big reason why he fell down the board, let alone his name and all that. When you get into the 3rd round and start to go, all right, we're drafting backup and 3rd-string quarterbacks. We don't want our 3rd-string quarterback to become the main topic of what we're talking about on a team. So people might look at their board and go, oh, yeah, Fedor Sanders, he's still the highest guy on our board. But the human aspect says that's going to f*** up our locker room, and it's going to be a distraction for our team. Cleveland apparently doesn't care about the human aspect.
No, they never care.
They never have. Whether it's back to Johnny Manziel or Deshaun Watson or whatever, they don't seem to care. And that's where analytics can steer you wrong. I don't get it.
Well, the other thing is the Browns need a quarterback and have back to Johnny Manziel. So when you need a quarterback, you're looking at the Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry said they were going to look for every possible avenue to find a quarterback. So don't be surprised that one that was highly rated is sitting there in the 5th round. They took him. Emery Hunt from CBS Sports talking about Fedor Sanders and the Browns draft. This is from the Ross Tucker podcast.
If you just flipped the Browns draft, maybe put pick 33, swap the Quinshon Judkins pick with Fedor Sanders and put a running back where Fedor was taken, or Gabriel where Fedor was taken, nobody would have a problem with the Browns draft. Like, oh, this was actually a great draft. They got the quarterback of the future, another developmental guy. So it's just the order is flipped. Because if anyone tells you that Fedor Sanders' tape was 5th round worthy, they're just either gaslighting you or just completely naive. If you said Fedor Sanders' tape wasn't 1st round worthy, okay, you're wrong, but at least 2nd round, you're still wrong, but at least that would be understandable, right? But there's no way you can look at what this dude did consistently over 4 years of football at 2 downtrodden programs without the best offensive line or run game or consistent weapons outside of Travis Hunter starting his Fedor's sophomore season at Jackson State. Like, man, look at the consistency of success.
Can't argue with anything Emery said, except it makes no sense that if they took him in the 2nd round, it was a good draft, but if they took the same guy with the same amount of talent in the 5th round, it's not a good draft? That makes no sense. If you get Fedor Sanders and you think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the draft in the 5th round, okay, we'll leave it at that. Devin McCourty, longtime NFL defensive back on the Browns quarterback competition. This from NBC Sports. Chris Sims unbuttoned.
At some point, I almost feel like you got to release one of these veterans or trade them soon. Because how does everybody get reps?
That was my number one question.
You have 4 quarterbacks. How do they all – and I would say, how do they get good reps?
Right. Yeah,
like, does it matter
if
I watch Fedor and Dylan Gabriel go against all of the other drafted, undrafted guys that, like, at the back of the roster that probably won't be here? Do I get any value out of watching that? Like, I remember just paying attention to different quarterback competitions and hearing coaches say, like, hey, like, it didn't make sense. So, that, like, this guy played with the starters today, not because he's going to start or we see a change in the depth chart, simply because we need to see him
against those guys. Everybody looks good against the 5th string on the team right now.
So I just don't know what Cleveland's plan is to keep 4 guys. Like, how do you decide? You have to make some decisions before actually watching these guys, which a lot of people feel like, man, that's messed up. But, like, Joe Flacco's an older guy. Like, is Joe Flacco the guy that you say, hey, I have to keep him in the locker room? Or do you say, hey, like, we need to move on from Joe Flacco? Or do you tell him, hey, coming in, hey, you're not our guy. We would love to keep you here.
Right.
We're going to pay you to be a mentor, basically.
Right.
Does he want that?
One of them becomes an asset if they're playing well, be it Kenny Pickett, be it Joe Flacco. If they're playing well and a quarterback gets hurt, they can become an asset. And you might be able to get 3rd, 4th round pick for them if you like both of the younger quarterbacks. So you have to let that play out. We will talk plenty about the Browns, Damon, Wolfe, Tim Bielik coming up in a few minutes. We move on to the Cavs. They now know it will be the Pacers. It will be Sunday either at 6 p.m. or 8 p.m. at Rocket Arena, depending on if there's a Game 7 in one of the first-round matchups. Stephen A. Smith on ESPN's First Take, who he thinks the best team in the NBA is at this moment.
Give it to me right here. The Cleveland Cavaliers. Right now, look at them. I understand what Miami is not anymore. I understand that changes are coming to South Beach. And I hope for the better because I'm familiar with that town, that part of the area. But the bottom line is this. When you look at Cleveland, everything that they have, it is Donovan Mitchell, DeAndre Hunter, key acquisition, a 6'8" dude that can defend on the wing and can shoot threes, okay? And then you look at Jared Allen and then Mobley and the size. They got size, they got athleticism, they got rebounding, they defend. Plus they got a closer and a superstar in Donovan Mitchell. And all of them are healthy, unlike Boston, with Jaylen Brown and Drew Holiday, both a bit injured right now, playing through some things in Jaylen Brown's case. That's why I got Cleveland #1.
Well, Darius Garland is kind of hobbled by the toe injury. Didn't play the last 2 games, so we'll see. But if the Cavs get through, it could very well. The Cavs Celtics could be whomever is the most healthy during that series. Guardians trying to make it 3 out of 4 over the Twins. Game 4 of the series at Progressive Field. Ben Lively going against Simeon Woods Richardson. First inning, Guardians get it going, and the guy that had the walk-off home run yesterday, Kyle Manzardo, an RBI single to center to make it 1-0 Guardians. Fourth inning, still 1-0 Guardians, and this is John Kenzie Noel, and that one's not coming back. 3/4 of the way up the home run porch out in left field, 450 feet, 2-0 Guardians. Already a run in the 7th, though. Carlos Correa, RBI single to tie it up at 2 in the 7th. Twins have runners at first and second, top of the 8th with 2 outs. They are in a rain delay. It is still tied at 2 as the Guardians trying to make it 3 out of 4. We'll have to wait through some weather to see if they can get that done. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. Browns are up first. Tim Bielik from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, straight ahead. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program is dedicated to recognizing exceptional students, teachers, and schools throughout Ohio. Scan the QR code on screen to nominate students and teachers as Academic All-Stars and Teachers of the Month. They must be currently enrolled or teach in grades K through 12. Is your K through 12 school developing students' literacy skills to achieve success in reading? If so, you can nominate your school for the School of the Year. Students can win $100, teachers can win $500, and schools can win $2,500. Scan the QR code, fill out the forms, and nominate deserving students, teachers, and schools today. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program takes pride in honoring exceptional students, teachers, and schools across Ohio. Submit your nomination today. It's fun, fast, and free. We begin by talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Now we really ain't going to win since it's the 3rd time our owners stepped in and told these guys to do something. They have enough trouble doing things on their own. With Barry, doesn't make good picks, and our coach can't coach. But now he's telling them who to pick. They already had their guy in the 3rd round. We could have used other guys with that pick, but he stepped in, and there it is. Now we're stuck with this guy. Just like he did with Manziel, just like he did with Watson, just like he did now. Just all he is to get a money-selling thing so he can get a new stadium. They don't care about the team. Doesn't care one bit. And until we get another owner, and 2 no guys running the team, guys, we go yet another year, maybe more, with nothing.
Let's welcome in Tim Bielik from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Tim, or he could have picked a guy that many had as a first-round talent or second-round talent in the 5th round, and maybe he figures it out, and they get their quarterback. Nobody knows until they go onto the field.
Exactly. And I mean, I think the way that this draft has been evaluated by a lot of people is the idea that you can't take a quarterback just because you already drafted one. I mean, for a team that came into the weekend, like I said on Orange and Brown Talk podcast on Thursday, this team came into the NFL draft with no future at the quarterback position, none. So if you don't have that future, you gotta swing. And if you look at the hit rates of third round picks and fifth round picks, those are low anyways. You're lucky to get it above 15%. So if you hit that 15% or less and it's on a quarterback, then you just kind of hit the jackpot right there. And especially with Fedor, who I think is a first round talent, no question. I cannot, it's still hard to imagine believe the fact that he slid all the way to the fifth round. So I just look at it as, why not take the swing? The worst that happens is, you blow a fifth round pick. Teams blow for fifth round picks all the time. It's honestly not that big of a deal. I mean, you're taking guys down there that are passed over 130 plus times for a reason. So it's more likely that you're going to find a miss than a diamond in the rough. And if that diamond in the rough in this case happens to be your quarterback, it's well worth it. It's basically a no cost, potentially high reward pick with where the Browns got Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah, and if you don't like Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry, that's fine. And I get it. Give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's see how this plays out. They had high picks. They made them. Let's see if it works out. Shedeur Sanders has been in town for a better part of a couple of days. Went out and spoke at John Marshall High School, and interestingly enough, did not request media coverage of this event. But here's Shedeur Sanders at John Marshall.
So I just got to Cleveland. I just wanted to come out and see y'all. We working out every day. We got a purpose. We got something we trying to accomplish and achieve. But I'm trying to bring Cleveland, of course, a Super Bowl. What inspires me to keep going, I would say, knowing I got a lot of people watching me, knowing that I'm a positive influence to the youth. That's why I say what keeps me going. So, even coming here, seeing y'all.
And again, I realize he has a camera crew following him around, so request for media coverage, okay. I got no issue with it. Again, some people said, why is he saying super? What do you want him to say? What do you want him to say he's working hard for?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any negative to him, doing a visit around the community. I think that's a good thing. Then, after being picked by the Browns 144th, they kind of threw him that lifeline after, like I said, arguably the biggest, most stunning draft free fall we've ever seen. It's good to see Shedeur kind of jump right into the community and embrace the community. And I think that's what you want to see. You want to see that type of stuff. And it kind of reinforces, in my mind, the idea that the perception of Shedeur Sanders feels very different from the reality of who Shedeur Sanders actually is. It feels like that draft fall was a lot of, obviously not having an agent and those sorts of things, and really not going through the pre-draft process well, not treating it the way, you're kind of supposed to treat it. But it seems like, for all intents and purposes, Shedeur Sanders is just a really good young man, understands what he has to do and those sorts of things. And we'll see, when we get to rookie mini camp next weekend, OTAs and those things, what kind of player he is and what kind of worker he is. But, to see him out there in the community right away, it's a really good first step, and you like to see that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and again, the thing I would say is 22, 23-year-old kid. He somehow, either he or his representation made some bad decisions. That doesn't matter. What matters, show me what you're going to do starting now, and especially starting Friday when rookie minicamp begins. One of the interesting things, Greg Cosell, one of the best NFL film breakdown guys, on what he has seen when he went and watched Dillon Gabriel, the guy the Browns took with their second of two third-round picks.
I think that Gabriel is a guy that has a natural feel for the position. I think he's got subtle and nuanced pocket movement, which you don't see from a lot of college quarterbacks. I think he has a pretty refined feel for when to come off intermediate route concepts and check the ball down. He rarely gets stuck in the pocket. I mean, I think you're dealing with a guy, obviously, because he was 5'11" and an eighth. He's got a little bit better arm than people are giving him credit for. He does not have a bad arm at all. what he needs at the next level. And I think in an ideal world, this is what Kevin Stefanski wants his offense to look like, is he needs a passing game built on timing and rhythm concepts, maybe an emphasis on RPO and quick game.
Tim, RPO they usually don't use. We'll see. I love the presence in the pocket and subtle movement. I think those are really underrated skills for an NFL quarterback. That was what made Tom Brady Tom Brady. And I'm not saying Dylan Gabriel is going to be Tom Brady, but if you look for what skill he had that made him elite, that was a big part of it. That, and he worked like a maniac.
Absolutely. I mean, with Dylan Gabriel, you know, I think when you look at him, obviously there's a lot to like when you just watch him play. I mean, I think of the Ohio State game in Eugene 2024. I mean, Dylan Gabriel is just phenomenal in that game. You know, Ohio State just can never get pressure on him. They can never rattle him. And he just picked that secondary apart. That was a secondary that, you know, had a guy in Denzel Burke who we all thought, you know, at the time could have been a first-round pick. Obviously, he fell throughout the season. Caleb Downs certainly in position to be the first defensive player taken next April in the 2026 draft. Dylan Gabriel just picked him apart. Like, he looked incredibly calm, confident, and like Greg Osell was talking about, you know, the arm with Gabriel is much better than people realize. Like, he can throw the deep ball and he can put it right where it needs to be. There's plenty of that in his highlight film. You know, you look game by game by game, he's able to just put the ball where it needs to be. He's mobile. I think there is some Baker Mayfield to his game, maybe not as strong of an arm, but I think you see that kind of mobility, maybe not as reckless as Baker, but I think that ability to create extra time for himself and also moving within and without the pocket, I think are interesting things of his game. And certainly, you know, he was a sleeper coming in, and because of the Browns taking Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round, I think, you know, that takes a little more attention off Dylan Gabriel and kind of lets him go back to being the underdog where he might be able to thrive best in this quarterback race.
So I know you also wrote an article grading every team's draft. For the Browns, you gave him a B+. Take us through what you liked about the Browns draft and why you think it was B+.
Well, I'm going to take the quarterbacks out of the equation. Obviously, you know, I don't mind them taking 2 swings at the position because you got to swing till you hit the guy. And certainly there's a good chance they may have to do it again in 2026 because you're banking on one guy taking a 94 and the other taking a 144 and hoping, you know, one of those guys is the guy. And if not, you know, you just go back around and try again next year. But the biggest thing I thought with this draft was it brought toughness back into the organization. Not that it hadn't been there before, but it felt like it injected a fresh bit of toughness. I look at Mason Graham, former wrestler in high school, the anchor of a really good Michigan defense the last 2 seasons. That guy is the epitome of toughness. Quinshon Judkins, power runner, physical, is not afraid to run through people, just getting those tough yards. Toughness. You know, Dylan Sampson, the 4th round running back, yeah, he's known for speed, but he's also a tough runner, really good in short yard situations. Certainly, I would have liked to see them go get offensive line help, receiver help. I think those 2 positions still are lacking. I think the Browns still need to continue to rebuild the offensive line, but I got no problem with them, you know, going Harold Fannin. We all know they're kind of going back to more of a Kevin Stefanski style offense, and that requires tight end play. And Harold Fannin Jr. was easily one of the best tight ends in the country. I mean, big numbers against high-level competition, not just dominating the MAC, but having big games against Penn State and Texas A&M. So, I mean, this guy's the real deal, and he's got a shot to be a tight end, too, pretty quickly. Carson Schwechter, I think he's a really good player. I think he's got a chance to really be an impact linebacker. I would have probably preferred that pick be, you know, a more high priority position. Again, receiver, you know, maybe they go offensive line somewhere in this draft, but what I wrote about this draft is understanding, you know, you're not going to fix all the holes in one draft with so many issues this team has. So I don't mind them trying to settle on an identity of stopping the run on defense, and trying to run the ball better on offense, and then taking your swings at the quarterback position. And best case scenario, say one of these 2 guys hits, whether it's Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders, if they have a better than expected season because one of those guys is your starting quarterback, then all of a sudden you can look at 2026, you have your 2 first-round picks. You don't have to trade up to get a quarterback. You can stay there. If you have a pick that's high enough, even, you can trade out of it to a team that needs a quarterback, get extra draft capital, and keep rebuilding this thing. But certainly this is a draft that looks like a transition draft. and we'll have to see how it all plays out. And if the guys that they drafted, how many of these guys pan out and become quality starters down the road.
Tim Bielik and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, we continue talking Browns. Sports for CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Hey, Olo, are there any lunch specials near me?
You want to learn about Ohio Lottery's Pick 3?
No.
Okay, Pick 3 is a daily draw game.
Cancel.
Where players pick 3 individual numbers between 0 and 9. The numbers can be played straight, where they must be drawn in an exact order, or boxed, where they can be drawn in any order. It's quick to play.
I just want lunch.
Players can win hundreds, and wagers start at 50 cents. The next drawing is coming up. Want directions to the nearest Ohio Lottery retailer?
Yes. One that serves food.
We continue talking Browns with Tim Bielik from the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. First round pick Mason Graham was on 92.3 The Fan. Talking about his interests.
Yeah, I've always been a low-key guy, just been about ball. Ever since coming out of high school, I came to Michigan and I wanted to, get to the NFL. That's why I chose Michigan with Coach Harbaugh and everyone there. So I'm really just about getting to the highest level and then being at my best. I want to be the best player I can be for, not just myself, but my teammates and, obviously the Cleveland Browns now. So, I want to do whatever it takes to win and, be the best player for the team.
All right, Mason, obviously we know you're about football. We know, but we just don't, because you're such a low-key guy, as you've said, what are the other things that Mason Graham is about? How do you spend your off time?
I really spend it, around the facility. In college, we didn't get too much time off. So, I was always just getting rehab, treatment, lifting, just in the facility or, if not, hanging out with my teammates and then, hop on the game sometimes, play little video games and have some fun time together.
So, Tim, the question was, what do you do other than football? I rehab, I lift, and I get treatment. All right.
That's a pretty easy player for Browns fans to like. I mean, we know Clevelanders like their guys who work hard, guys who are all about ball. And it's easy to see why, based on just that answer, it's easy to see one of the reasons the Browns could fall in love with Mason Graham, be willing to give up a shot at Travis Hunter, move down 3 spots, also be able to draft Quinshon Judkins, and also be able to pick up a first-round pick next year. So I think with Mason Graham, he's such an interesting player. I think he's a true 3. He could be a real good 3-down defensive tackle. He needs to work on the pass rush moves a little bit, but my goodness, you just see his ability to disrupt in the middle, pure strength. I think when Mike Hall Jr. gets healthy, you can easily see the two of them be a really fun tandem in the middle of that defense.
So another guy that we talked a little bit about, Carson Schlesinger, Emory Hunt, what he sees when he looks at his tape.
Because when you watch him play, it's like this dude makes every tackle. Like, he is blowing things up en route to the ball carrier. Like, he's a plug-and-play guy. He was so consistently hitting his high marks every game I couldn't ignore. Because by the time I got to him, because I grade these prospects, Ross, in alphabetical order. So by the time I got to UCLA, somebody else was number 1. And then it was like, hey, man, this dude is just he's nice. Like, this is somebody I want on my team.
And Tim, the one thing about him, he didn't miss a lot of tackles. That was, if you go and you watch some UCLA games, looks like there's 2 guys wearing 49 playing linebacker.
Yeah, and there's numbers to back up that tackle stuff. Looking at his PFF draft guide, 7.6% missed tackle rate. That's easily that's 8th best among linebackers in 2024 in college football. So you could see it in the numbers in addition to what you see out there. When you watch him, he just understands what he's looking at, and that's such an understated thing for a linebacker. It's one thing to read and react. It's another thing to be instinctual and to really have a sense of what's coming and then going to make the play. I mean, that's part of Carson Schlesinger's film when you watch him again and again, and that combined with the fact that he can move side to side really well. 40 time, wasn't anything special, but his agility numbers are pretty darn special. When you look at his 3-cone and his short shuttle, those are the things that stick out to me is, can you move side to side? Can you move all around the field? and be a guy that tracks everything down. And when you wrap a guy up, can you bring him down and not give up missed tackles? That's such an underrated thing to have in the middle of the defense. And, easy to see, again, like I said, Mason Graham, the things that make Carson Schwechter, a guy that the Browns clearly had to have at 33. I mean, again, reportedly taking all kinds of trade offers, but you can see through all those things why they stood pat at 33 and just took him.
All right, so we talked a little bit about wide receiver. News came late yesterday afternoon. Bills are signing Elijah Moore, a one-year deal worth up to $5 million. The Browns applied the unrestricted free agent tender for a compensatory pick, so they'll find out what type of compensatory pick they get once you find out how many of them are in next year's draft. The other thing is, take a look at this. These are the free agent wide receivers. And they look a lot like Chinese food that got pushed to the back of the refrigerator. You got Keenan Allen, who's 33, a lot of receptions, a lot of yards, 66 touchdowns. Amari Cooper, not sure how that ended here, to be honest with you, 64 touchdowns and over 10,000 yards. Aguilar, 31 years old, and 389 and 37 touchdowns. DJ Chark, 28 years old, has 24 career touchdowns, 216 receptions. Tyler Boyd, 30 years old, 552 receptions, 31. Jamison Crowder, 31 years old, 31 catches. Any of that intrigue you enough to put it in the microwave and warm it up and bring it in here?
Keenan Allen really sticks out to me. Obviously he's the oldest of the bunch, but when you just look at his resume, even last season in Chicago, his first season there, with the rookie quarterback Caleb Williams, still put up solid numbers, 70 catches, 744 yards, 7 touchdowns. Yeah, he's just turned 33 just a couple days ago on April 27th, but he's a guy whose game's never predicated on speed. He's been a possession receiver from the second he walked in the NFL, and he is a guy you never have to worry about, a guy that's just going to do his job, get open, and make catches. And I think for a team that could potentially start one of two rookie quarterbacks this coming season, you could do far worse than a guy in Keenan Allen who just understands how to create space for himself and to be open as a receiver. If I was going to go with any other guys, I think DJ Chark is the guy I would really look at. I know he did not obviously did not have a good season, but he's got a Pro Bowl to his credit. He's got some solid production. Injuries have been his issue, but you look at him still on the right side of 30. He turns 29 in late September. He might be a nice inexpensive option potentially. I don't know what his market looks like, but if you're looking at some verticality, speed to his offense, I think he's an interesting option there.
Tim Bielik, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Tim.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Have a good day.
Tim Bielik, make sure you check him out. Plain dealer, cleveland.com. Always good stuff with the Browns as well as the rest of the NFL. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We continue talking Browns. Damon, Wolfe from Dawgs by Nature straight ahead. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
Hey, Olo, are there any lunch specials near me?
You want to learn about Ohio Lottery's Pick 3?
No.
Okay, Pick 3 is a daily draw game.
Cancel.
Where players pick 3 individual numbers between 0 and 9. The numbers can be played straight, where they must be drawn in an exact order, or boxed, where they can be drawn in any order. It's quick to play.
I just want lunch.
Players can win hundreds, and wagers start at 50 cents. The next drawing is coming up. Want directions to the nearest Ohio Lottery retailer?
Yes. One that serves food.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation. I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams. I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity.
A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
We continue talking Browns on Sports for CLE. Browns rookie mini camp will get underway a week from tomorrow, a week from Friday. Friday, Saturday, Sunday next week. And the rookies will all be in town. Chris Sims, former NFL quarterback, on the quarterback competition for the Browns. This from NBC Sports. Chris Sims unbuttoned.
There's 2 rookie quarterbacks. And now that, like, I have a hard time. I mean, they're going to be there. Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur are going to be there. Who is the odd man out?
Who do you like more, Gabriel or Shedeur, now that we know they're in Cleveland in this fancy system?
I like Shedeur more.
Yeah.
I do. Does Shedeur other stuff, does it concern me a little bit? Definitely. But, like, translation to the NFL, I like Dillon Gabriel. I do. He's got a strong arm. He's a good athlete. But, damn, he plays small. He looks small. And there are plays that I watch in games and go, that guy's open and he can't see him or feel him, or he just wants to get it out of his hand because he doesn't want to get crushed by everybody, right? So, yeah, I like Shedeur there better. What do? Right? Do you go with a Kenny Pickett and go, wait, he's kind of in the prime of his career, and do we keep him? Or is he better trade bait because of that, and then we keep Joe Flacco? But I would think one of those veterans
is in trouble.
Isn't he in trouble? Because you're not going to get away with putting Shedeur or Dillon Gabriel on the practice squad.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen.
No.
Let's welcome in Damon Wolfe, Dawgs by Nature. I respectfully disagree. I think you could probably – remember, everybody passed on Shedeur Sanders 4 times. He was a 5th-round pick. And Dillon Gabriel, yeah. Plus, you can protect a couple of guys on the practice squad. I think you could probably put one of those guys on the practice squad. The caveat would be if somebody has their starter go down and they like Kenny Pickett or Joe Flacco enough to give you a 2nd, 3rd-round pick, you might have to listen to that.
Yeah, it's certainly an interesting scenario the Browns have themselves in right now with the quarterback position, with the 4 people that they've brought in to fill the role for this year. I don't know that putting one of them on the practice squad is going to be an option. The Browns did invest 2 high picks to trade up, or 2 day 3 picks to trade up for Shedeur Sanders. And then also, they spent pick number 94 overall on Dillon Gabriel. I think at the end of the day, keeping 4 quarterbacks on the roster is a possibility, even though it probably isn't likely. I do think, though, that for the first time in this regime, and when I say regime, I'm talking, ever since Paul D. Podesta and back to the Sashi Brown era, I think this is the first time that I can confidently say that the Browns aren't anointing anybody the quarterback or the starter heading into the season. And it's true, we're truly going to have a competition to kind of sort things out. And for that, I'm pretty thankful for.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I agree. There is not a clear-cut leader. It depends on which of the guys you like best, the one that you think is going to get the gig. It's kind of interesting. So this is from the Rich Eisen show. Darryl Colbert Jr. is Shedeur Sanders' quarterback coach. Talked about what areas Shedeur needs to get better at.
I think from the learning coverages standpoint, man, I think he's one of the guys who understands coverages at a great level. And I think that just goes from, who his dad is. He's been learning coverages for a long time, and he's been around some guys who have taught him a lot. So he understands it. He understands the game from a whole different lens that a lot of people don't get to understand it from. But a lot of things he needs to work on. Of course, it gets to a point where, you've been sacked so many times and different things like that. You want to be able to, get the ball out a little quicker and different things like that. There's a lot of things that he understands that going into the next level, going into the NFL, that he'll have to change, that he'll have to get better at. And he's working on that. Those are things that, of course, working on the pro day stuff, but those are things that he wants to work on, a lot more rhythm stuff, a lot of different things that, he understands that I have to be better at the next level to be successful.
It's kind of interesting hearing his quarterback coach say that. Those are he held onto the ball too long. He took too many sacks. He has to play in. Those are all the things that you heard, and That's his quarterback coach saying those are the things he's working on.
Yeah, absolutely. So the thing that I think Shedeur will really have to do at the NFL level is just speed up his clock and really just hit his back foot and decide what to do with the football a lot faster than what he's had to in college. And a lot of that, at the college level, he's trying to, of course, play a little bit of hero ball, trying to extend plays when he doesn't really have the physical traits and abilities to do that. I think just at the NFL level, he's got to come in and, be more of a point guard, a processor of the offense, and just, the point man and get the ball out quickly. And that will really do wonders for him in his game.
So you look at the roster, and it'd be hard to argue that the Browns didn't upgrade it during the draft. It was a pretty significant upgrade. What areas do you think need the most attention? And I know you wrote an article for Dawgs by Nature about this, but what do they need to do to this roster to upgrade it a little bit more?
So yeah, first of all, I love the draft overall. I mean, when you take a look at it, they walked away with 6 of my top 90 players on my board. So it's really hard to argue with that out of 7 picks. However, if I'm going to be picky and nitpick the situation, I do wish they would have gotten an offensive tackle for the future, because I believe that puts a lot of pressure on them for next season to have a guy. And I know we have the 2 first-round picks, but those are kind of earmarked in case we need them for quarterback. So that would be one position that unfortunately I don't think they're going to be able to address until the draft. But in addition, for this year in 2025, to me, safety really stands out as we need 1 or 2 guys back there who can come in and take snaps that we can count on in case of injury. I know Ronnie Hickman's a little, he's had a small sample size. He's played well. So that would be one area. And then the other area that I really think that they need to get somebody else in the building is at the tight end 2-3 spot to kind of pair up with Fannin, and someone who's more of a blocker who can come in and play inline and do some of those things, some of the dirty work that's required in Stefanski's offense.
So you also wrote an article about the undrafted free agents that the Browns signed, a deeper look at what some of them bring. They got an offensive tackle, Jaden Ivey from North Carolina A&T, safety from Pittsburgh, cornerback from TCU, cornerback from Colorado State, a guard from UC, Amani Marshall, running back from Appalachian State, and a tight end, Eli Wilson, also from Appalachian State. Any of those guys intrigue you enough to think they could help this year?
Well, yeah, I mean, especially with the current safety situation that we just spoke about, I think Donovan McMillan is a guy who has a really athletic profile. And, choosing undrafted free agents in the secondary has been something that the Browns have been strong at. McMillan is a guy who I think could have was worthy of a late 7th round draft pick. And the Browns are fortunate enough to get him in. Really good athlete, does a lot of nice things. And I think he could be somebody that could stick around. Also, Dom Jackson, the cornerback from Colorado State. He's a very lengthy kind of, he excels at press man coverage, what the Browns like to do in the back end of the defense. He'll be like an outside boundary corner, kind of in a Martin Emerson type of role, possibly as a depth or backup there. And, he may even, both of those guys are definitely practice squad candidates as well to stick around. I know they also gave Jackson some guaranteed money to sign.
All right. Before we go to break, you've seen the draft. Does it? I kind of feel like it says Kevin Stefanski is. We're going back to the quote unquote Kevin Stefanski offense, just with some of the fits. Did you get that same sense, or am I reading too much into it?
No, I definitely think they are going to, go back to the Stefanski offense as a foundation. I do think that Kevin also has a desire to marry up some of the things that I think Tommy Rees has excelled at in his background in his past. And I think he tried to do that last year and over the past couple of years with Deshaun Watson and, trying to adapt things. I think that he may have swung the pendulum a little bit too far in that regard. And I think you're going to see a little bit more of a dialed in situation. I'm not so sure it'll be exactly the same as what we experienced back in 2020, 2021, when things were, when that offense was really, really successful. I think that now you'll see a little bit of a modified version of that as the league has caught up with, the Shanahan wide zone system.
Damon Wolfe from Dawgs by Nature now. I can step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we continue talking Browns. We'll talk some running backs. Sports4CLE, be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns with Damon Wolfe from Dawgs by Nature. So, Damon, the Browns take Quinshon Judkins in the 4th round, Dylan Sampson in the 6th round. What do you think of the pairing, and what do you think of adding 2 guys that were they were towards the top of a deep running back class?
Yeah, I think pairing is the perfect word there. I think, the Browns are doing something, or getting a package similar to what Ohio State had with Judkins and Henderson there. So Judkins, I like Judkins a lot because he's very versatile. He can definitely do the wide zone, the run from under center very well. He has enough speed to kind of get to the edge and, make a cut and, pick his hole and go. And then Sampson, I think, can definitely do some things, on passing downs, as far as, running from the gun. He's somebody who has tremendous speed, and he's also a one-cut runner as well. So I really like what the Browns did there as far as the running back pairing. And I think they've really set themselves up to, they've laid the foundation for what the next version of the rushing attack will look like.
So first 2 picks, pick 1, pick 5 overall, and then 33, first pick in the 2nd round. Both defense. Were you surprised by that? And how good do you think this defense can be when you add guys that are pretty physical to the middle of it?
Yeah, it was definitely surprising. I didn't expect, with as much help as the Browns needed on offense, I certainly didn't expect them to go defense with the first 2 picks. But at the end of the day, the Browns got 2 really good football players, 2 really hard workers who are going to come in and, set an example. And I mean, they're pretty dominant players as well. Up the middle of the defense, I think in an ideal world, Mason Graham is a game wrecker in the run game, an upgrade over Dalvin Tomlinson over the past couple of seasons. And then you add Schlesinger to the mix as the Mike linebacker long term. I think he gets on the field pretty early because he is so talented. When the Browns drafted him at 33, my initial reaction, I love the player. I just thought that maybe it was maybe like 10 picks too early for him. But also, I will say this, when in the lead up to the draft, when I found out that there were 32 teams, all 32 teams were at his pro day, that really signaled to me that, there's a real shot of this guy potentially going in the 1st round. So at the end of the day, the Browns got a lot better on the defensive side of the ball, especially up the middle. Schlesinger brings a lot of ability to cover and also run sideline to sideline and run things down from behind. And I think that, if JOK is healthy and can return to play this year, I think the Browns could have a really special unit on defense.
All right, you also wrote an article, Winners and Losers on the Browns roster after the NFL draft. The winners, You had Greg Newsome and David Bell, so a cornerback, a wide receiver. Losers, Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, and Jerome Ford. Take us through that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess those are pretty obvious answers considering that they drafted, multiple quarterbacks and multiple running backs in the same draft. So I think that there will be, competition at the quarterback position, and I don't think the Browns have committed so much to either Flacco or Pickett that they couldn't move on from one if they chose to, if they see enough out of Sanders and Gabriel. And that's a possibility. So that's why I chose them. I'm sure that, at the end of the day, on Saturday, Pickett and Flacco probably weren't too excited about them drafting two quarterbacks. And then, Jerome Ford, I would expect his workload to decrease as the season rolls along. So that, with Judkins and Sampson, I think that they both have the skill sets to get on the field right away. And then winners, Greg Newsome, he's been rumored to, been on the trade block forever. I think that the Browns didn't address cornerback at all in the draft, really solidifies him for this season, even though they might not enjoy paying a nickel cornerback $13 million. But he does provide a good baseline of, insurance in case they need him on the outside. And David Bell is he's pretty much a forgotten guy in the wide receiver room. I really liked what he did all the way back to the end of the 2023 season, where he, broke out at the end of the year and had, I believe, 3 touchdowns in his last couple of games there. And then, he started the season pretty well. The game against Jacksonville, he had, 3 catches very early in the game before he had the hip injury. So I think that they are probably counting on him a little bit more than most people expect. And I hope that they can get what the production out of him that they want.
So a longtime Browns beat reporter Tony Grossi was asked a question. Many Browns fans are wondering about Browns quarterback situation.
All 4 quarterbacks currently on the roster, not including Watson, will make it to September 7th opening day.
I'm going to say fact.
I'm going to agree with Tony here and say fact, because the Browns don't have quality of quarterback. So I think they're going to try to make up for that with quantity of quarterback.
The other thing is none of them is practice squad bound. They're not going to cut the 2 rookies.
I was just going to say, they have to keep all 4 on the roster if the name, because somebody would pick up, or Shedeur would want to go to a team that wanted him.
He wouldn't voluntarily accept a demotion to the practice squad.
So let me ask you this, Damon. Who do you think right now is the guy that the Browns think will be the starter week 1?
If I had to put money on it, I would say probably Kenny Pickett is who they're expecting to start week 1. Just the fact that, the guy is a former number 1 pick overall. They traded a 5th round pick as well as, Dorian Thompson-Robinson to acquire him. I believe, over his last 17 games, his record was 13-4 as a starter. So, I do think with the experience that he has, I think that the Browns think that they can maximize his abilities. And I think that, certainly with Stefanski as his coach, I could see that as being a very plausible scenario.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think many fans think it's going to be Joe Flacco, and it may be, but I think if all goes the way they expect it to and they want it to, it's Kenny Pickett and Joe Flacco is there so that they don't have to play Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders before they feel they're absolutely 100% ready.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if one of the, I think their plan won't be to have the rookie come in until they prove themselves that they're able. And it's a tall task to ask any rookie to come in and just win the starting job, especially with their draft pedigree, where they were drafted. So, I could see that at some point in the season, them wanting to turn it over. I do think that it is very important for the Browns to get an evaluation on these two.
Yep.
And that would involve playing them in real time, getting live action and live snaps in real games before the season is over with, so that way they know which direction ahead in 2026.
The other thing I would say, look at the order that they were added to the roster in. They traded for Kenny Pickett. They ended up adding Joe Flacco after a couple of weeks, and you heard all the other stuff. They drafted Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd round. They moved up and got Shedeur Sanders in the 5th. Pickett's a little ahead of Flacco, and Gabriel's a little ahead of Sanders when you start things out.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to stack it up heading into the training camp, and I think that's kind of the order we'll see them roll out there in the first preseason game.
Damon, Wolfe, as always, great stuff. Appreciate it very much. Thanks very much, Damon.
No problem, Dave. Anytime. Thank you.
Damon Wolfe, make sure you check him out. Dawgs by Nature, always really good and insightful Browns coverage. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We turn our attention to the Cavaliers getting ready for the Eastern Conference semifinal series against the Pacers, which starts Sunday. Sports4CLE, be right back.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
Hey, Olo, are there any lunch specials near me?
You want to learn about Ohio Lottery's Pick 3?
No.
Okay, Pick 3 is a daily draw game.
Cancel.
Where players pick 3 individual numbers between 0 and 9. The numbers can be played straight, where they must be drawn in an exact order, or boxed, where they can be drawn in any order. It's quick to play.
I just want lunch.
Players can win hundreds, and wagers start at 50 cents. The next drawing is coming up. Want directions to the nearest Ohio Lottery retailer?
Yes. One that serves food.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation. I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams. I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity.
A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
We turn our attention to the Cavaliers. A little bit of rest after sweeping the Miami Heat in the first round of the playoffs. Now getting ready for the Indianapolis Pacers. Sunday at Rocket Arena will be game one. Game will either be at 6 o'clock or 8 o'clock, depending upon if one of the Western Conference series goes to 7 games. Pacers star Tyrese Halliburton, who hit the game winner in their decisive game against the Bulls. His thoughts about the Cavaliers as they get ready to meet in the Eastern Conference semis. This from the Pat McAfee Show.
They're a good team. You know, they're really physical. They can shoot the ball really well. They got multiple guys that can handle, shoot, defend. I think that's why you see the record that they have. They're a really good and really deep team. So we just got to be able to match that energy. And it's not going to be easy by any means. It's a really good team. So we look forward to that competition. And I think this year we haven't really ever played each other this season at full health. So it's hard to really look at necessarily all the film because I haven't really played a ton against their full group, and I only played the first half, I think, of the first game we played them. So as far as film, I'll probably have to go back 2 years and then start to watch what other guards have done against these guys. But definitely looking forward to the competition, and I got some friends over there, so it'll be a lot of fun.
So teams played 4 times. Pacers won 3 of them, but as Tyrese Halliburton alluded to, Cavs didn't have Mobley and Allen and Garland in the last 2 games because they played late in April. They didn't have DeAndre Hunter for any of them. So you kind of got to throw the season series out the window against them. It is a team that can score substantially better than Miami, and they do have some guys on the perimeter that will be pains, and they may be able to play Jared Allen off the court just because they have big and lengthy wings. DeAndre Hunter starting to play really well. Had a little bit of an iffy first game against the Heat, and then really has kicked it into gear. And that could be bad news for the Pacers as well as the rest of the Eastern Conference. The more Hunter gets comfortable, the bigger problem he will be for the Cavs moving forward. Remember, they went out at the trade deadline to get DeAndre Hunter because they liked the fact that he could switch, and he's a guy that's athletic enough to cover centers, can move and presents a perimeter problem in the event that everybody wants to play away from the basket. Let's welcome in Chris Fedor from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Chris, I know you wrote an article about Hunter getting comfortable. Take us through that and how important it is for the Cavs.
Yeah, Dave, I think it's very important. They didn't get him for March. They didn't get him for the early portion of April. They got him because they believe in him as a playoff performer and all of the different things that the Cavs can do from a lineup construction standpoint, from an offensive versatility standpoint, defensive versatility standpoint. Like, there is a reason why they targeted him specifically at the trade deadline, because they felt like he's the kind of guy that they needed if they were going to compete for a championship. Not just get past Miami in the first round, but compete for a championship. And the Indiana Pacers present some problems for the Cavs, and they went to the Eastern Conference Finals last year. I know a lot of people forget that, and I know a lot of people downplay that because the road that they took to get there was paved with a lot of teams being injured. But they got to the Eastern Conference Finals last year. They've been through things together. They've got a lot of playoff experience up and down that roster. They've got multiple All-Stars on that team as well. So having somebody like DeAndre who can play such a big role on the offensive end of the floor, a 3-level scorer, somebody that can attack mismatches, somebody that can shoot from 3-point range, and then somebody on the defensive end of the floor who can guard Miles Turner, who can guard Pascal Siakam, who can guard Obi Toppin and some of these other guys that the Cavs are going to see in this series against Indy. It is going to be really, really important for DeAndre to be playing at a high level, and to see him play the final 3 games against Miami the way that he did. Like, that's what the Cavs envisioned when they went out and traded for him.
When you watch the first couple games of this series, what are you paying attention to? What do you think the keys of this are?
There are 2 things that stand out to me, Dave. The first thing is the playoff chess match between Rick Carlisle and Kenny Atkinson, because the Cavs have been committed to 2 bigs, Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, and there are distinct advantages that the Cavs have with those 2 bigs together. But there are also limitations with those 2 guys. So which one wins out? Obviously, the Cavs want to play those guys together because they're an elite defensive team with them. But the way that Indiana plays, Jared's going to be out on the perimeter. Evan's going to be out on the perimeter. They're going to have to guard in space, and that's difficult for them. But can the Cavs neutralize that at the other end of the floor? Because they're bigger, they're stronger, they can score inside, they can get offensive rebounds and second chance opportunities. They can punish switches if that's what Indiana is going to do on the defensive end of the floor. They can score in the post or at the mid post. So that's one thing that I'm going to be looking for, is just how does that play out with the Cavs' 2 bigs, and how much is Kenny Atkinson going to be willing to use both of those guys together? That's, again, going back to why DeAndre matters so much to this team, because if the Cavs take Jared Allen off the floor and they go with the 1 big of Evan Mobley, well, the 4-man's going to be DeAndre Hunter. The other thing that I'm looking for, Dave, is Indiana plays a different level of fast. The Cavs want to play fast. They want to They have this more modern offense, and you saw that against Miami in the first round. You saw that for 82 games in the regular season. But Indiana is a different level of fast. It's like when Ohio State was fast, and then they played against Florida, and you're like, okay, that's SEC fast. That's a different level of fast. There are levels to this sort of thing. And can the Cavs play at the kind of pace that Indy wants to play at while also not getting fully caught up in that game? Because at the end of the day, the Cavs have to be themselves. There's a reason why they're the number 1 seed. There's a reason why they won 64 games. There's a reason why they just finished off the most lopsided playoff series that we've ever seen in NBA history, because they're really good. And the things that they do well are very, very difficult for another opponent to deal with. But Indy plays at a speed that the Cavs haven't felt before, that they haven't played against before, that it's going to take the Cavs some time to get adjusted to that speed. And in one of the games between Indy and Cleveland, the Cavs got caught up in that, and they kind of like lost their own identity. They started jacking shots early, and they just like couldn't play Indiana's style to the level while also being able to match Indiana's pace. Not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, without question. Before I let you go, there are so many guys. Kenny Atkins said he was going to do 10-man rotation. He continued to do that, and darn if everybody didn't contribute the way he wanted them to.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that makes this Cavs team special, Dave, is that they have so many different guys that they can trust, that understand their role and can be effective in their role. If you look at that series between Miami and Cleveland, like Erik Spoelstra kept losing guys that he could go to. He started the series with Alec Burks in the starting lineup. He realized in game 1 he could not play Alec Burks. So that took a rotation player out of the mix. Then he was committed to playing Duncan Robinson. Well, in game 2, the Cavs completely buried Miami in the second quarter of game 2. And a big part of that is because they relentlessly hunted Duncan Robinson. They put him in every single action on the defensive end of the floor, and his defensive limitations played him off the floor and out of the rotation. So like it got to a point by the end of the series that Erik Spoelstra had 6 guys that he could trust. Kenny has 10, 11. That's a really good position to be in for a head coach. And it doesn't mean, Dave, that every single series it's going to be a 10-man rotation. And it doesn't mean that every single series it's going to be the same guys. But the thing is, if somebody is showing a weakness, if somebody is in foul trouble, if somebody is not playing well, Sam Merrill was a fixture of the lineup in the first 2 games. In game 3, he didn't play well, so his minutes got cut, and DeAndre Hunter's minutes increased. That's the beauty of this kind of roster. That's the beauty of the depth that the Cavs have. If somebody's not getting the job done, Kenny has somebody else that he can turn to. And if that guy's not getting the job done, then Kenny has somebody else that he can turn to. So having optionality and versatility within your lineups and within the style that you can play at both ends of the floor, that's critical in the playoffs, because sometimes you have to play big and win. Sometimes you have to play small and win. Sometimes you have to play fast and win. Sometimes you have to play slow and win. And it just feels like the kind of bench depth that this team has, the Cavs can play any kind of style, and they can be effective playing any kind of style.
Chris Fedor, Cavs beat reporter for Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Appreciate you hopping on with us. Thanks very much, Chris.
You got it, man. Anytime.
Chris Fedor, make sure you check him out. Great Cavs coverage, as always, for the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We will see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow at 4 on Sports for CLE.